Liam, have you ever spent hours staring at a restaurant menu, totally unable to choose what to eat?
Oh, absolutely, Emma. I think we all do that. It is called decision fatigue, right? You get overwhelmed by too many choices.
Exactly. It happens to me all the time. But it made me think about something fascinating. How do people who run giant global companies make massive choices every single day without losing their minds?
That is an excellent question. Think about billionaires like Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett. Their choices can change the entire world economy or affect thousands of jobs.
It sounds incredibly stressful. If I can't even pick a soup or a salad, how do they choose whether to buy a $10 billion company?
Well, they do not just rely on a gut feeling. They actually use very specific systems to protect their mental energy.
A system for making choices? That sounds like something we could all use in our daily lives.
Definitely. They treat decision-making like a skill that can be practiced and perfected. But here's the surprising part. Many billionaires actually try to make fewer decisions every day, not more.
Wait, they want to make fewer decisions? That sounds counterintuitive. Aren't they paid to make big moves all day long?
You would think so, but they understand that our brains have a limited amount of willpower and focus each day. Every small choice we make uses up a little bit of that fuel.
So that explains why someone like Mark Zuckerberg famously wears the exact same gray t-shirt every single day.
Spot on, Emma. He openly said that he does not want to waste even 1 second of his morning energy deciding what to wear. He saves all his brain power for the big stuff.
Wow, that is a great life hack. I spend 10 minutes every morning just looking at my closet. By the time I leave the house, I am already tired.
Exactly. And billionaires automate these tiny, unimportant choices so they can focus on what really matters.
That makes so much sense. So, how do they handle the actual big choices? What is their secret framework?
One famous method used by Jeff Bezos is dividing choices into 2 categories. He calls them Type 1 and Type 2 decisions.
Type 1 and Type 2? What is the difference between them?
Type 1 decisions are like one-way doors. They are heavy, expensive, and almost impossible to reverse. Once you walk through, you cannot go back.
Oh, like quitting your main job to start a completely new company? Or selling your house?
Yes, precisely. Those require a lot of time, deep data analysis, and careful thinking. You should never rush a Type 1 decision.
And what about Type 2 decisions?
Most people don't realize this, but the majority of our daily choices are actually Type 2 decisions. They are like two-way doors. If you walk through and do not like what you see, you can just walk right back.
So, a Type 2 decision is something you can easily change or fix later if it goes wrong.
Exactly. For a company, it might be testing a new feature on a website or changing a minor policy. If it fails, no problem. You learn from it and change it back.
But I guess the problem is that many regular people treat every single choice like a Type 1 decision. We treat everything like a massive crisis.
That is a brilliant point, Emma. We spend days worrying about things that can be easily fixed in 5 minutes. Billionaires make Type 2 decisions very quickly because they know speed is a competitive advantage.
That is so true. If you take too long to make a simple choice, the opportunity might disappear completely.
Exactly. Bezos says that if you wait for 100% of the information, you are probably being too slow. You should make the choice when you have about 70% of the data.
70%? That sounds a bit risky to me. Don't they want to be totally sure before moving forward?
If you wait to be totally sure, your competitors will beat you to it. Plus, you can use your energy to course correct along the way.
Course correct. That means changing direction slightly when you see how things are working out, right?
Yes, exactly. It is like driving a car at night. You can only see as far as your headlights show, but you can still make the whole journey that way by adjusting as you go.
I love that image. It takes away a lot of the anxiety around making mistakes.
Speaking of mistakes, there is another billionaire who has a completely different approach to making major choices. Have you ever heard of Warren Buffett's circle of competence?
I have heard the phrase, but what does it actually mean in practice?
It means knowing exactly what you were good at, and more importantly, knowing what you do not understand. Buffett only invests in businesses that he completely understands.
So, if a shiny new tech company comes along, but he does not understand how it works, he just ignores it?
Exactly. Even if everyone else is making millions from it, he stays away. He knows his limits and sticks to his circle.
That requires an incredible amount of discipline, especially today when there is so much FOMO. Oh, let me clarify that for our listeners. FOMO means the fear of missing out.
Yes, FOMO is a huge trap for many investors and regular people. We see others doing something popular, and we feel pressured to follow them.
But billionaires do not care about what is popular. They care about what fits their specific strategy.
What happened next was unexpected. During the tech boom of the late 90s, everyone thought Buffett was losing his touch because he refused to invest in internet startups. People called him old-fashioned.
Let me guess. When the internet bubble burst and many of those companies crashed, he looked like a genius.
Exactly. He saved billions because he stayed inside his circle of competence. He was not distracted by the noise.
That is a powerful lesson for daily life. Sometimes the best decision is actually choosing not to do something.
Absolutely. Saying no is a superpower. In fact, Buffett once said that the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything.
Wow. Say no to almost everything. That sounds harsh, but I guess it protects their most valuable resource, which is time.
Yes, because every time you say yes to something minor, you are automatically saying no to something else that could be more important.
That is deep, Liam. It really changes how you look at your schedule. It means we need to be very protective of our time and energy.
Definitely.
Another tool billionaires use to filter out bad choices is called first principles thinking. Elon Musk talks about this a lot.
First principles thinking. It sounds a bit technical. Can you break it down into simple terms?
Of course.
It means breaking a problem down to its most basic fundamental truths and then building a solution from the ground up. You do not look at what other people are doing.
Okay, so instead of saying, we should do this because everyone else does it this way, you ask, what are the absolute facts here?
Yes. For example, when Musk wanted to buy rockets for SpaceX, he found out they were incredibly expensive. Most people would just give up or try to negotiate a small discount.
But I assume he didn't do that. What did he do instead?
He asked a fundamental question. What is a rocket actually made of? Aerospace-grade aluminum, titanium, copper, and carbon fiber. Then he looked up the market price of those raw materials.
And let me guess, the raw materials were way cheaper than the finished rocket.
And this changes everything. He discovered that the raw materials only cost about 2% of the price of a typical rocket. So instead of buying expensive rockets from others, he decided to buy the cheap materials and build them himself.
Wow, that is completely revolutionary. He completely bypassed the traditional way of thinking just by looking at the basic facts.
Yes, most people make choices based on analogy, which means copying what others do with slight variations. Billionaires use first principles to create entirely new paths.
It sounds like it requires a lot of courage to stand alone like that and challenge the status quo.
It does, but they also have a unique way of looking at risk. They do not fear failure the way most people do. They view failure simply as data.
Failure as data? That is an interesting twist. Can you explain that a bit more?
Well, if an experiment fails, a scientist does not get depressed and quit. They just look at the results,
learn what did not work, and try a different angle. Billionaires treat their choices like scientific experiments.
That takes the negative emotion out of making mistakes. It turns a scary mistake into a helpful learning experience.
Exactly. Ray Dalio, another famous billionaire investor, wrote a whole book about this. He believes in radical transparency and learning from mistakes. He actually records all his company's decisions so they can analyze them later.
That is incredible. So they can look back and see exactly where their thinking went wrong.
Yes, they call it a post-mortem. It is like an autopsy for a project or a choice that did not go as planned. It helps them avoid making the same mistake twice.
I think that is where many of us fail. When we make a bad choice, we just want to forget about it and move on because we feel embarrassed.
Right. But if you do not analyze your mistakes, you are bound to repeat them. Billionaires are obsessed with finding the flaws in their own thinking.
It sounds like they are very objective. They don't let their ego get in the way of a good choice.
That is key, Emma. Ego is the enemy of good decision-making. If you are more worried about looking smart than being right, you will make terrible choices.
Jeff Bezos actually mentioned that he looks for people who change their minds often. He thinks people who are always right are people who listen to new evidence and update their opinions.
Yes, being stubborn is a major liability. The world changes fast, and your choices must adapt to new realities.
So, we have talked about reducing decision fatigue, using mental frameworks, staying in your circle of competence, and first principles thinking. What else do they do?
There is another fascinating technique called inversion. It was popularized by Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime business partner.
Inversion? That sounds like turning something upside down. How does that apply to making a choice?
It means instead of asking, how can I make this project successful, you ask, what would completely ruin this project?
Oh, that is a wild perspective shift. So you think about all the ways things could go horribly wrong first?
Exactly. You list all the ways you could fail, and then you systematically design a plan to avoid those specific pitfalls.
That is so practical. It is much easier to avoid mistakes when you have clearly identified them beforehand.
Yes. Munger always said, "Tell me where I'm going to die, so I'll never go there." It sounds funny, but it is a very powerful way to protect yourself from big disasters.
It really is. It helps you see the blind spots that your excitement might hide. When we are excited about a new idea, we usually only look at the positive side.
True. We get blinded by optimism. Inversion forces you to be a realist and look at the dark side of a potential choice.
So, Liam, if our listeners want to start applying these billionaire secrets today, what is the best way to begin?
I would say start by simplifying your morning routine. Reduce those tiny, meaningless choices that steal your energy before your day even starts.
I am definitely going to try that. I will pick out my clothes the night before and plan my breakfast. That will save me so much morning stress.
That is a great start. Next, when you face a medium-sized choice, ask yourself, is this a one-way door or a two-way door? Can I fix this easily if it goes wrong?
If it is a two-way door, I should just make the choice quickly and not waste days overthinking it.
Exactly. Save your deep thinking and long hours for the true one-way doors. And finally, always try to define your circle of competence. Know what you are good at and stick to it.
That is such solid advice, Liam. It turns out that making great decisions isn't about being a genius. It is just about having a reliable system and the discipline to follow it.
Well said, Emma. Anyone can build these habits. It just takes intentional practice every single day.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel much more confident about making my own daily choices now.
Me too. It is all about taking these big concepts and bringing them down to earth to improve our daily habits.
I completely agree. It has been such an enlightening conversation today, Liam.
Learning about how the minds of successful people work is truly inspiring, and it gives us all a clear roadmap to improve our own lives while we improve our language skills.
It really does, Emma. I always love discussing these topics because they remind us that we have a lot more control over our future than we think. Our daily choices truly shape our destiny. I hope our listeners found this episode both helpful for their life journey and their English listening practice.
I am sure they did. It is all about taking these ideas and applying them step by step. Thank you for joining us today on SmartSpeak Podcast.
If you enjoyed this conversation and learned something new, don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with a friend.
Keep practicing, keep improving, and keep speaking English.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.